Sachin, what do you think about these flags?
I think they're brilliant. I mean, I'm obviously from Asian heritage myself. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with displaying the St George's flag or the Union Jack or the Scottish flag or anything else. This is if you can't fly the British flag in Britain, then we've lost. We've completely lost, honestly. We have Pakistani flags being flown on,
Independence Day.
Independence Day, Eid. We got Indian flags. I have an Indian flag at home.
Yeah.
Right. I have a Union Jack. I have a St George's flag. This is Britain. We can fly our flags. If we can fly, in fact, I think we should fly our flags in more places. There should be more places where we fly the English flag. We've got Tower Hamlets. We've got Birmingham saying we can't have the Union Jack, we can't have the St George's flag flying because of health and safety.
Yeah.
They didn't say that about the Palestinian flags. They've been flying on lampposts all day long. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? We need to reclaim this country back. If people are telling us we can't fly the flag of this country, we have seriously lost.
Sachin, what about lost. Okay. So what about what Sundar Katwala was saying? I don't know if you heard that interview. His family, etc., do fly flags, especially events or whatever, and he doesn't have any problem with it. He says that really it's something that you do on property that you own. If you start sticking flags, and I take your point about the Palestinian flag. I didn't choose to ignore that. But if you're attaching flags to lampposts and painting mini roundabouts and all the rest of it, that's kind of, you might not want it to be health and safety, but it's not really your property. Is it okay? Would it be okay with you if people could just fly flags from their houses, their windows, etc.? Okay. Or do you think that's not enough?
I'll answer that. I believe in consistency. I believe if you have a policy that says you can't do certain things in a certain place, then it should apply to everybody, not just a certain group. We should have consistent laws and regulations about this. If you say you cannot fly the Union Jack from a lamppost, you absolutely cannot fly a Palestinian flag from a lamppost. That's the end of it, right? Yeah. I mean, just have one set of consistent rules.
Yeah.
So I don't care either way, but all I can care about is consistency.
Okay, that's a fair point. Sachin, thank you very much. Let's speak to Jonathan, who's in Brentwood. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello, hi.
How do you feel about flags? The flags right now that are increasing? Right.
I'm going to begin with a direct warning to the racist bad actors who are behind this campaign. And I'm not talking about members of communities who are caught up in it. There's a difference. I'm talking about the bad actors. We know what they're doing. We know this is not about immigration. We know this is not about national pride. I am not white, let's put it this way. But I was born in this country. I've lived nowhere else. I have a job. I'm active in the community. I'm British. But in the past few days, people who very well know my background have called me an immigrant. I've even been called an illegal immigrant. I've been told that I'm merely a visitor to this country. They say that displaying all of these flags is some sort of act of defiance because they've been downtrodden and not allowed to display the flag. What nonsense. I, as someone who is not white but British, quite enjoy seeing a bit of bunting when, there's a new monarch or a jubilee to celebrate, or on the rare occasion the England sports team wins something. We're fine with flags being displayed there. We're fine with all of that. And I actually raised this in many local community groups online, but local community, that's absolutely fine. We were fine with this. And if the flag is displayed in the spirit of unity and pride, go for it. And I was laughed at. And I was laughed at by the sorts of people who are encouraging others to deface private property, to spray paint over road markings, which is probably one of the most idiotic things you can do, especially like zebra crossings where people are going to trample over and possibly spit at, because they know full well it's not about pride. So what we do is we get into a straw man argument about, well, why other countries can display their flags, why can't we? No one's ever stopped them.
Okay, Jonathan, rewind a bit. I didn't want to interrupt you because I could tell that you wanted to get all of that out. You said at the beginning that you've lived in this country for, you're born here, you've lived here all your life, and I think I'm right in saying that it's only recently that you have come up against people, presumably strangers, members of the public, saying you're an immigrant and you should go back to where you came from. Is that right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So without using any of the words, can you tell me what happened and what they said to you?
Normally when you hear them being a little bit too overtly racist about certain people and certain demographics, and you try to correct them, saying it's a little bit out of line, then they turn on you, and then they remind you that you're an immigrant, you're actually just a visitor to this country, or you should be grateful, and all that nonsense.
And then you say you were born here, and then what do they say?
Yeah. Well, that tends to shut them up.
Right.
I mean, I've had some online. I've had even worse. I've had responses to that with pictures of orangutans and nonsense like that. So this isn't about pride. We know full well this is not about illegal immigration. This is absolute nonsense. We know what's behind it. And
so
also,
tell me,
we know what they're planning in September. We know that.
Okay, spell it. We know what they're planning. All right. Spell it out for me then. If it's not about the debate around immigration and people getting fed up, etc., about small boats, what is it about?
This is racism. This is about anyone who is not white. Because, again, I'm not white, but I am British.
So why now? What? I still don't understand. Look, listen,
why now?
Go on.
Yeah, why now? Fair point. Why now? Well, like I said, we want to differentiate between people in communities who are caught up in all of this, who believe the lies. I've had someone say to me, it's actually illegal to display the St. George's Cross because it offends ethnic minorities. That's nonsense. No, they believe in these lies, and these lies have been planted out there. So you can't blame people caught up in the lie. But what you can do is point the finger at the bad actors who have organised this because they are planning something for September, and we know they are. And what they want to do is rile up as many people as possible to create some sort of narrative that it was because of public anger. And I want to get it out there as someone who is British and who is not white. We have no problem with the flag being displayed properly. In fact, I think, are there rules about how you should display the flag?
Yeah.
And half the time, these patriots aren't even following the rules.
I've got to read this out. It's a WhatsApp from Angela in Stevenage. I did not feel patriotic to England at all until 5 minutes ago. I just pulled off the A1 at Junction 7, and to see all the flags on the roundabouts and down the dual carriageway made me feel very proud and quite emotional, the first time in years. So thank you to all the people that put up the flags. Well, there you go. Razia is called in. She is in Epping, very much been in the news recently. Razia, what's your opinion on flags that are not on private buildings but are on lampposts and painted on many roundabouts, etc.?
I think had the flags been put up in good spirit, then they would have been celebrated. But unfortunately, what started with a protest against the asylum seekers, but then has turned very quickly into something completely more sinister. I think our wonderful flag has been hijacked. It's not been put up in good spirits. And I mean, if it was a sporting event or something that we were celebrating, something that we really felt jubilant about, I don't think anybody would have a problem with the flags going up. But it's the spirit in which they have been put up. When you have masked men in the dead of the night hoisting up these flags, it's very clear they've not been put up in good spirit. They've been aligned with the far right, unfortunately, and with the Reform and BNP. And I think this is why people are upset. I have had so many emails from residents, both white and of colour, that are saying they feel very uncomfortable. This is not about being patriotic to the country. This is something completely different. And they are calling for the flags to be taken down. I mean, we are calling for the flags to be taken down.
Razia, we should just say this. So what's your job title?
I'm a town and district councillor and deputy mayor of Epping.
Right, okay. So, I mean, you're right in the thick of it, really, aren't you?
Very much so. And every time we try to put a reasoned argument forward, we are shut down. I've had so much abuse on social media, so much hatred. I've lived in Epping since 2012. I brought my children up in Epping. I love Epping. It is, and I've said this a number of times, it's an incredibly special place to live. We are blessed with having the forest on our doorstep. And the community has always been so lovely, so accommodating, so welcoming. Suddenly, this level of hatred is just beyond. It really is.
You talked there about the people putting things up in the middle of the night. Just quickly, there'll be some people shouting at the radio saying, "Well, we have to do that because if we do it during the day, we'll be stopped because it's health and safety or it's not allowed, etc." So that's what some people would say. But Razia, we haven't got a huge amount of time, and I do want to ask you, seeing as you are Deputy Mayor for Epping, what your own view was of the High Court ruling around the Bell Hotel.
I think they've shot themselves in the foot, if I'm perfectly honest, because the government is not going to give in to violence. If they win, what's the message that we're sending out? It's a very dangerous precedent that we're sending out, that the more violent you are, yes, we will give in. Violence should never pay. Violence should never, ever, ever pay. Vigilante behaviour is not acceptable.
But ultimately, it was a legal issue, wasn't it? Rather than what was going on around the country.
It was a planning issue, and if the judge had actually thought about, rather than using the violence to determine the judgment, if they had actually thought about the planning issue, I don't think the judge would have ruled in that way, because when you look at planning, you look at environmentally based nuances. I mean, the neighbourhood, how is it affecting the neighbourhood, the road network? That wasn't really considered. What was considered was actually having the asylum seekers there is causing the residents to become violent. It's a level of violence, and that to me was wrong.
Right, and other people would say that having the hotel there was making residents feel unsafe.
It's very difficult because I know residents that live opposite the Bell Hotel. I have also been contacted by residents that live within the little cul-de-sac next to the Bell Hotel. And they've said to me in emails that up until the protests, they didn't even know that asylum seekers were there. So you have this sort of, lots of different opinions.
Of course, yes, yeah.
And I think the problem is that you have this drip-feeding effect of negativity, of far-right sort of slogans being branded about. I spoke to somebody only a few days ago that said actually one of the waitresses in one of the local cafes said, no, she hasn't seen anything, but she's heard. So you hear and then you take it for gospel that that's what's happening.
Okay.
Look, we cannot minimise the assault that happened. The perpetrator was swiftly arrested and charged. Let the police get on with their job. We need calm. We need peace again in our town so we can all go about our business
Razia,
without feeling threatened.
Okay, Razia, I think we can all agree on that. Razia, thank you very much. I want to squeeze in Elena, who's in Southwark. Hi, Elena. Flags, how do they make you feel?
To be honest, these flags make me feel so uncomfortable. And this is probably just because of my experiences in life. I'm mixed race. And I've always associated that flag with, you're not welcome. That was what I got from the flag. I mean, even growing up and watching This Is England, that flag was flown and, there was a lot of racism in that movie. I've received racism from people who've flown the flag in their gardens. So for me, when I see that flag, it's you're not welcome. And for the past couple of weeks, I've received racist abuse, and mainly it's from people who fly that flag or on social media or have it as their profile picture. It makes me feel so uncomfortable. It really does.
Always. What about around sporting events and stuff like that when the England team were playing?
I think that's because it's a completely different reason. I mean, come on, this flag situation has only just come up because of the asylum seeker in the hotel. Why didn't they do it before? Why didn't they do it before? You know, I work in domestic violence. I support women that are in asylum seeker hotels that have fled DV. So it's not only just these men that they're talking about that are in these hotels. There's women and children in there too, you know. So it's just, I'm British. I was born here, born and bred. My mother's white British, you know. So I'm very proud of this country. But when I see things like this and the racism that are coming from people that fly this flag, I'm just disappointed.
Okay.
You know, and I point it out.
Yeah.
But I point it out that it makes me feel uncomfortable, and it's like, well, how does it make you feel uncomfortable? You know, you get a lot of stick for it, but I just feel like no one will understand because they're not in my position.